Hourglass Cosmetics has just dropped brand new ambient edit quads and the ability to customize our own palette. They're finally listening. And listen, with Hourglass, I know it can be very confusing a lot of the times to know which palette or which shades are going to work the best for you. So in this video, I'll be reviewing the 3 lightest quads in the new lineup while also pulling from my vast collection of Hourglass powders to provide you with some helpful recommendations on which specific shades are best for fair skin tones, just in case you want to customize your own palette. Let's get into it. Now, all 3 of the new palettes that I'm going to be reviewing today have 1 Hourglass finishing powder, 1 bronzer, 1 blush, and 1 highlighter. So they're all very balanced, which I personally like. The first palette that I have right here, which I think is great for fair skin tones, is called Dawn. Let me give you a little tour of the Dawn palette, starting off with the finishing powder. The finishing powder in this one is called Dim Light. And this is actually my favorite finishing powder from Hourglass. This is the one that I use pretty much daily. It's one of my favorite powders ever. I have very dry skin. I don't like a lot of powder on my face. It usually gets very cakey. And the formula of these is just absolute chef's kiss, and Dim Light is my favorite shade. This is the one that I feel really just kind of blends into my skin tone and also doesn't wash me out. It is very neutral, so don't be afraid. It's not going to be too warm, but it's also not so cool that it's going to make me look ashy either. If you've never used these powders before and you're wondering like, what are these? What do I use them for? You can use them for a couple of things. After you put on your foundation and your concealer, you know, your base, you can use these to set your makeup. You can kind of lightly pat them on. You can buff them in with a buffing brush. You also can use these to kind of blend everything together once you have everything on your face, you know, your bronzer, your blush, your highlighter, etc. Or you can use it for blending. I use these pretty much every day to blend out my eyeshadow just to give a little bit more of like a professional look. And Dim Light is that shade that is my favorite, so I highly recommend. The one thing that I want to mention, however, is that I don't think Dim Light is the most ideal if I want to brighten the face. So for example, if I want to go under the eyes and kind of just brighten up that area, I would go with a lighter shade. And I have heard from some of my more fair skin subscribers, those of you who are even fairer than me, that you actually prefer the lighter tones in the Hourglass line. So for this, I would recommend going with the shade Diffused Light. This is featured in the Sculpture palette. It's featured in the Volume 3 palette. I use this all the time under the eyes if I want to do a little bit of brightening, but it's not really the type of shade that I personally prefer all over the face. So I just want to give you that option. In case you want to customize your own palette, you could always swap out this shade or build a palette with Diffused Light. By the way, I don't think every country has the customization option, so that's why I'm focusing on both the curated palettes and the customizations. So hopefully, no matter what options you have, this video is helpful to you. The other shade that you might want to consider that's a little bit lighter than Dim Light is called Soft Light. This is featured in the Evil Eye palette, which came out last year. This is also very nice and light in tone. I really like this one, and it has a peachier tone compared to Dim Light. So Dim Light is very neutral, but Soft Light is peachier. It gives like a slight warmth to the face without looking orange. So that might be another good option for you if you want something that's a little bit peachier in tone. Oh, and by the way, if you happen to be enjoying this video, please don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. It really helps me out. And if you are new here, maybe consider subscribing to my channel. My name is Sophia, and I upload new videos just like this every single week, all about everyday natural beauty and accessible luxury style. I film all of my beauty videos in natural light with no filters, and I will be doing more reviews on the other new Hourglass palettes and customization options. So if that sounds good to you, hit that subscribe button to join our fam. We seriously would love to have you. I will also mention real quick that I do have a coupon code to the Hourglass website that sometimes works just depending on the release. It is SOFIASEES for 10% off. So it worked for me when I ordered these palettes, so give it a try, see if you can save 10% off with SOFIASEES, and hopefully that'll save you a little bit of money on these palettes. Even more important than the finishing powder are the Hourglass bronzers. I feel like the bronzer shade can really make or break a palette depending on your skin tone. There are so many Hourglass palettes that I have that are so perfect, except the bronzer is just, it's all wrong. And then what happens? I never reach for that palette and I feel like I wasted my money. So what bronzer, might you ask, is in the Dawn palette? This one is called Lunar Bronze. This is described by Hourglass as a matte, warm bronze. I don't think I would describe this necessarily as a warm bronze. I actually think this is more neutral compared to most of the ones that they have in their collection. This is one of my favorites from Hourglass for sure. It adds a little bit of warmth, but I feel like it has a lot of neutrality to it as well. I think that this shade would work well for fair skin tones, but I also think that it's buildable enough if you're kind of light to medium, because it does have some good pigmentation to it. I wouldn't say that it's matte. I think all of these formulas are glowy, but I guess from an Hourglass perspective, it's not super shimmery. It's gonna have a little bit less shimmer than some of the other more like marbled ones that they have in the collection. If you don't like this, if you have the Evil Eye palette and you're like, no, Sophia, that bronzer does not work for me, and you're looking for something that is better for like a fair, cool undertone, then I would go with my favorite bronzer from Hourglass, and I'm so excited this is one of the options in the customizable palettes. Thank you, Hourglass. This one is called Natural Bronze Light, and this is the bronzer from my favorite Hourglass Ambient Lighting Edit palette, which is called Sculpture, which you cannot get anymore. This palette is so underrated, and this particular bronzer, you'll notice, it has like a pinky undertone. It's not completely neutral, but it has that little pinky undertone that I know a lot of you out there love who have fair skin. If you like the Gucci bronzer in the shade Fair, go with this one. If you like the Beach Walk Betty shade from RMS, I would probably go with this one. I've been using this bronzer for so many years since that palette came out. I think that this is a really good option. The other good option for you is called Diffused Bronze Light. This one actually comes in a single, and it seems like it's always sold out, and it's probably because the rest of the bronzers in the Hourglass lineup do tend to be fairly warm. This one's going to be on the cooler side, and it also will still have a little bit of that pinkiness that you get from Natural Bronze Light as well. If you're looking for something that is truly warm, then you might want to check out Lustrous Bronze Light. I don't like this one because I think it is way too orange. This is the bronzer that is featured in the Elephant palette from, was it like 2 holidays ago? That was a very popular palette. In fact, I think it was one of their most popular ones ever, so that's why I bring it up. Seems like a lot of people like that palette, so if you really want something warm, or maybe you just have a very warm undertone, or you're more like fair to medium, then you probably want to go with this one. But personally, I'll just let you know, I don't like this bronzer. I think it is like way too much for me, way too orange. Now let's talk about blush. The blush in the Dawn palette is also one of my favorites, not just from Hourglass, but like one of my favorite blushes ever, especially for fair skin, especially if you want something that is just so subtle, so ethereal, so natural. This, my friends, is Mood Exposure, and they put this one in a lot of their palettes, and it's also available in a single for a reason, because it's such a good blush. This is described, I believe, as a soft plum. That makes it sound like it's gonna be kind of colorful. It's not. It is a plum, but it's almost a very subtle mauve that when you blend it into the skin, it looks so natural. I always feel like, oh no, I'm gonna want a nude blush when I go on my trip, but you know, I can only bring one palette. And then I go in with Mood Exposure, and it just seems to work for every single look. So I really like that they included it in this palette. Maybe some people will be annoyed because it is included in other palettes, so go into your collection and see what you might already have from Hourglass. But personally, I love Mood Exposure. I think it is one of the best options in the lineup, customizable or non-customizable, if you have a fair skin and you want something that's just like beautiful, neutral, soft for every day. Now, if you want something that's a little bit warmer, a little bit peachier, maybe you're like, no, Sophia, I want something that's a little bit more summery, then I would go for the blush that's called Lucid Glow. When I first saw this, I was like, wait, I think I have that blush. Where do I have that blush? It is in the Ghost Blush Quad that they launched, gosh, I don't know how many years ago at this point. I love this quad. I wish they would release these shades in singles. This is a beautiful quad, and this particular shade is this very subtle, I guess I could call it like a peach, a coral. It's not so vibrant where you can't wear it for every day, but it adds a really beautiful summery liveliness to the cheeks. So this, I think, is another good one to choose if you want something that is warmer, and then Mood Exposure, I think, is good if you want something that is more on the cool tone side. And lastly, we have the highlighter in the Dawn palette, and this is called Opal Strobe Light. And once again, well done, Hourglass, because this is one of my favorite highlighters that they have ever done. This is featured in the Jellyfish palette. Remember the Jellyfish palette? That highlighter is so gorgeous. It is a slightly frosty, slightly white pink highlighter. It packs a punch, but man, if you have a fair skin tone, this just melts into the skin and really just illuminates the cheekbone. It is also stunning on the eyes, is what I have on my eyes right now. You see that little pop? You see that? It's the opal strobe light. It's so beautiful. It's like a one and done eyeshadow. You can put a little mood exposure in the crease, which is what I did today. So good. So good, guys. I love this highlighter. If you don't want something that is pinky in tone, you just want a more traditional champagne colored highlight, then the shade that I would recommend swapping in is called Celestial Strobe Light. And this one is from the Butterfly palette from the other year. This is just, I mean, there's nothing special about it. I think that opal strobe light is kind of more unique and special, but I think this is a good option if, once again, you just want like your standard champagne colored highlight. And this is going to be the one in the lineup that is best for fair skin if that's the tone you're going for. So if you can't tell, overall, I really like the Dawn palette. 3 out of the 4 shades are like my all-time favorites from the brand. And then the bronzer, it's not my absolute favorite, but it's, you know, my second favorite, which I'll take. I think it's beautiful. I think it works for me. So yeah, I would totally recommend this. If I didn't have the option to customize, I would absolutely buy this palette and I'd be using it all the time. Now, the next quad I think you should consider if you have fair skin is called Sunrise. And we've actually already talked about most of the shades that are included in this palette already in this video. The finishing powder in this palette is none other than diffused light. This is the recommendation I said if you don't want dim light from the other palette and you want something that is a little bit lighter and more brightening, that is this recommendation. So if you wanted something lighter, it's included in the Sunrise palette. This is what it looks like right here, showing you from my Volume 3 ambient lighting edit. The bronzer is my favorite one that I just mentioned, the Natural Bronze Light from the Sculpture palette. So there is a curated palette that has my favorite bronzer, and it also has the lighter finishing powder. So would you prefer those? They are included in the Sunrise palette. And then the highlighter is Celestial Strobe Light from the Butterfly palette, the one that I just said. If you don't want a pinky toned highlighter like the Opal and you want something that is more champagne tone for light skin, that is what is in the Sunrise palette. And then the blush that is included in this palette, it is called Iridescent Rose. So you get more of a rosy tone blush, the lighter finishing powder, the more peachy pinky bronzer, and then the lighter champagne highlighter. So it really just depends on, you know, do you like more of like a rosy blush or do you like more of a mauve? Do you want more of a brightening powder or do you want more of like a neutral flesh tone powder? And then of course, the difference between the bronzers is that one is warmer and one is a little bit more pinky. I think this is also a really great, really balanced palette for fair skin. It just really depends on the tones that you prefer and how you like to use these powders. So hopefully those kinds of comparisons and the way I presented it is helpful. And finally, at least for this video, we have the Golden Hour palette. And this one is definitely my least favorite, and I'll explain why. All 4 of these shades are in the Elephant palette, and I don't really love the Elephant palette. I'll kind of explain why. I just feel like that was kind of lazy. They could have created something a little bit newer that we haven't seen before. They re-released the Elephant palette last year, and now we just have a mini version. So I don't know. If you've been wanting to have a more compact version of the Elephant palette, you got one right here. The finishing powder that is included in here is called Soft Light. So that's the one that I said earlier in the video. It's good for fair skin. It does have like that peachy undertone. I think it's nice. I think it's pretty on my skin tone. The bronzer in here is Lustrous Bronze Light, which is the one I mentioned earlier that is very orange on my skin tone. I feel like when I really build it up on my face, I just kind of look like an Oompa Loompa. It's way too orange on me, and that's why I never use the Elephant palette. So if you don't want something that is super warm, I would stay clear of this and just make sure if you customize your palette, you're not using Lustrous Bronze Light. But I'm sure there are many of you out there, if you have like a medium warm skin tone, then this is gonna work great for you. Now the blush, I will say, is very pretty. This is called Iridescent Coral. I wouldn't say it's particularly unique. I don't think it's as unique in my collection as like a Mood Exposure, for example, but it's like a pretty kind of light pinky coral blush. I think it works well for fair to medium skin tones. If you like to wear pink blush regularly, then you'll probably like this, but it is a little bit more on the vibrant side. I just don't tend to reach for these tones that often. I'm more like a berry, a terracotta, a nude. So again, it's not to my personal taste, but I think it's a beautiful blush. And then the highlighter is called Beaming Strobe Light. And I think this is pretty, but this is the kind of tone that I would use if I really wanted to create a very golden look, if I wanted to look super bronze. It's a little bit more of like a bronzer topper on my skin tone. If you are fair, unless you want something that like really stands out and adds pigment, not just illumination to the skin, I don't think I would go with this shade. I would go with the Celestial Strobe Light that is in the other palette, the Sunrise palette, also included in the Butterfly palette. That's just like your traditional champagne highlighter. This one is going to be darker. It's a similar tone, but it's just darker. So overall, the Golden Hour palette, there's nothing wrong with it. I just think that this is better for somebody who has more of like a medium skin tone and a warmer undertone. Please comment down below and let me know what you think of these three palettes. What do you think of this release in general? Will you be buying one of the curated palettes, or are you going to be customizing one of your palettes? And which palettes and shades do you want me to review next? Make sure you stay subscribed for more videos just like this. If you like this video, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, or better yet, go watch another video. Up next, we have the 5 best and 5 worst products from YSL Beauty. I'll see you there.